Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment Bill.
That legislative statement is published on the authority of the House and can be found on the Parliament website.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Immigration, Fiscal, Sustainability and System Integrity Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Education and Workforce Committee to consider the bill. At the appropriate time, I intend to move that the bill be reported to the House by the 13th of November 2025. Mr Speaker, immigration is integral to New Zealand's economic and social prosperity. It plays a key role in supporting this government's Going for Growth agenda and delivering the skills our businesses need to compete globally and to grow. We want to enable a smart, responsive immigration system that attracts the skilled people that New Zealand needs. And since taking the immigration portfolio, this government has made changes to the regulatory settings to get them right and deliver on our priorities. We've targeted key skills gaps and ensured sustainable and efficient visa processing while effectively managing risk. Settings are more attractive to migrants and more workable for businesses. The AEWV work visa targets high-skilled migrants and mitigates exploitation concerns, and we have significantly improved processing times. The new Parent Boost visa will help unite families and enhance New Zealand's appeal to bring in highly skilled migrants. Our investor visa sittings are now more simple and flexible, and they are delivering results. From November, we're making it easier for people to visit New Zealand from Australia. Chinese and Pacific Island forum nations will no longer need a separate visa. This trial will make it faster, cheaper and simpler for our second largest tourism market. Also, we've adjusted the fee and levy rates to reduce the taxpayer burden of administering the immigration system. I'm proud of the improvements we've made to the immigration system, but Mr Speaker, there is more to do to ensure our legislative settings are fit for purpose and designed for the future. Mr Speaker, the geopolitical context of the world is changing and New Zealand is not immune to risk. This bill will improve the immigration system's integrity and responsiveness by tightening settings in response to risk. More instances of migrant exploitation can be prosecuted, and there will be stronger consequences for residence class visa holders who commit criminal offences or pose significant risks. The bill also introduces appropriate safeguards in the system for vulnerable people. It implements legislative recommendations from two independent King's Council reviews of the immigration system. Those were Victoria Casey's 2022 review into the detention of asylum seekers and Michael Heron's 23 review of immigration out-of-hours compliance activity. The bill's changes also ensure that the system is flexible to unusual events and enables immigration funding to be fairer and more sustainable into the future. Mr Speaker, the bill makes 10 targeted changes to the Immigration Act. Firstly, the bill addresses a gap in New Zealand's migrant exploitation settings by creating a new offence to knowingly seek or receive a monetary premium for offer of employment. Charging premiums for employment is an increasing form of migrant exploitation and causes real harm. Often premiums are in the realm of tens of thousands of dollars. Currently, the legislation does not cover premiums that are paid before the employment commences, premiums that are made offshore, or situations where a premium is sought or received by someone other than the employer. This change makes it even clearer that this behaviour is not tolerated in New Zealand. It will enable us to prosecute more instances of migrant exploitation and hold exploitative behaviour to account. Secondly, the bill amends the definition of a mass arrival group to better respond to changes in international people smuggling trends. The current definition excludes people who have arrived on a scheduled international service, such as a commercial flight or a cruise vessel. This change will ensure that New Zealand can appropriately and humanely manage the potential arrival of a large number of irregular migrants at one time, regardless of how they travel into the country. Thirdly, the bill will reinforce the expectations of residence class visa holders. It will clarify that deportation liability is a consequence of criminal offending rather than solely on a criminal conviction. Currently, if a judge orders a resident class visa holder's discharge without conviction, the person cannot be liable for deportation, even if they've pled guilty or been found guilty. This undermines the integrity of the good behaviour bond for new residence class visa holders. It also advantages migrants over New Zealand citizens who cannot seek to avoid a conviction on the grounds that it could lead to their deportation. This change means that a person is liable for deportation if they plead guilty, are found guilty or are convicted of a criminal offence. Decisions about the deportation liability of individuals who have committed triggering offences will be made with the immigration system rather than in the criminal courts. The existing humanitarian appeal rights to the Immigration and Protection Tribunal will remain unchanged. Fourthly, the bill improves our ability to respond to the very rare situations where a migrant poses a threat or risk to the security of New Zealand but cannot be deported, for example, because there is a credible chance that they would be subject to torture. In those situations, the Minister of Immigration will be able to cancel the person's residence class visa. The removal of residence class visa status will facilitate deportation in the future if circumstances in the person's home country should change. In the meantime, an individual will be on a temporary visa. They will no longer be able to vote or purchase a home, and they will lose the ability to sponsor a friends or family member to come to New Zealand. This approach is consistent with the international human rights law and the principle of non-refoulement. The Fifth Amendment builds on operational improvements by requiring immigration officers to obtain a judicial warrant prior to conducting out-of-hours compliance activity. While most compliance visits can be effectively undertaken in hours, sometimes out-of-hours visits may be the only realistic option for contacting a person subject to deportation. This will ensure that when such an action is necessary, it is scrutinised by an independent body protecting individual rights and providing confidence in compliance action. This was a key recommendation in the 2023 Michael Heron review. The Sixth Amendment in the bill establishes a separate higher bar for the detention of asylum claimants. These groups of people are in New Zealand under very different circumstances and have particular needs, which New Zealand is under an obligation to respond to. This change responds to a recommendation in the 2022 Victoria Casey review and long-held concerns from stakeholders. The Seventh Amendment will increase the range of tools available to manage immigration risk and ensure compliance measures are proportionate. At present, judges only have two options when someone is subject to restrictions of movement under the Act. They can either detain the person, usually in a prison, or release them on the condition that they comply with the RRRA, the Residence and Reporting Requirements Agreement. The bill establishes electronic monitoring as an alternative to detention where a person is subject to deportation. This change responds to concerns from judges and stakeholders that the existing compliance options are not always appropriate. It also responds to a recommendation in the 2022 Casey review. The bill's Eighth Amendment enables flexible responses to challenges to the immigration system to more effectively respond to unusual events. Currently, the Act requires an individual to submit a visa and a decision maker to individually determine the outcome. This individualised approach doesn't allow for efficient management of large numbers of visa applicants, such as visa holders, like visitors, who are stranded due to an airline disruption, which we saw in May last year. The system also struggled to respond to the collapse of Air Vanuatu, which temporarily stranded hundreds of RSC workers in New Zealand, and the volcanic explosion which caused Tonga's airspace to close and meant many visiting Tongan citizens were stuck here. This change will enable the Minister of Immigration to make decisions on visas in the absence of applications, only in situations where this will benefit a group or an individual. Finally, Mr Speaker, the bill will support the immigration funding system to be fairer and more sustainable through two amendments. The bill provides an option in the future to expand the immigration levy payer base so that immigration system costs are more fairly shared across people who benefit from and create risks for the immigration system. The bill also creates a new immigration levy making power to expand the purposes that immigration levy can be used for. While there are no immediate plans to undertake a fee and levy review to implement these changes, the bill future-proofs the system should such changes be needed in the future. Mr Speaker, these are important, sensible changes to the Immigration Act that will ensure New Zealanders have the confidence in the integrity of the system. MB consulted with key groups, including immigration experts, businesses, unions, the legal professionals, on the policy proposals drafted in the bill. Their feedback has helped to strengthen and improve this bill. With that, Mr Speaker, thank you, and I commend the bill to the House.
It feels like it felt like the US Constitution was being mentioning that none of the amendments mentioned anything like the US Constitution. I mean, Amendment 6 ain't about, what do you call it? I can't remember what Amendment 6 is. Amendment 5 is you cannot be forced to say, what was it called? Say anything that incriminates you. But it just shows that, I mean, Erica does thoroughly go through her bills and actually knows them inside out. It clearly has been shown in the first reading speech.
Yeah, I'll give it credit for that. I mean, when I was looking over the Hansard, I was like, okay, all right. I was like, whoa, hold your horses! You just made 10 statements, 10 changes to the Immigration Act. Wow.
She actually said it. She didn't put a airy-fairy broad speech. She actually said what the changes were. Like, I really learned a lot about that bill in her opening statement. I don't think any national minister has actually done that when it comes to the first reading opening statement, that literally for someone who hasn't read the bill actually has an idea about the bill for the response speeches.
Yes, I'll give her that. So this bill is very much the way how she's kind of set it up. It is an attempt at trying to pass something that's bipartisan in nature, because the research into this bill, or the regulatory standards bill, all the work that went into that, started under the last Labour government. So she's carried that on. Now, I'm going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly of what National has done here. So the good, create a new offence for migrant exploitation, job premiums. So basically it's going to make it illegal to knowingly seek or receive payment for job offers. Good. Yeah. We need that. That's good. Now I'll go to another good one. Judicial warrants required for out-of-hours immigration raids. Follows the 2023 Huron Review, which I briefly looked over for the show. Recommendation to protect rights. Good. Okay. Now, there are things that could be improved upon here, but this is a good foundation, right? You've got to have a warrant to do an arrest. I would like to see a bit more flexibility there. Like, if you're going to do a day arrest or something like that, you have a warrant, and you can't always, put it this way, you can't always detain someone after hours, right? People's lives don't work like that. And Erica, to be fair to Erica, she brings that point up. So I'll give her points for that. We're kind of almost doing like a cinema sins moment here. You know, it's like take away points, add points.
And what's the total?
Yeah, no, the total's in the positives at the moment. Stricter rules for detaining asylum seekers by raising the threshold for detaining asylum seekers. Good. Okay, she's making it harder for assholes to detain refugees at the airport. Very good. So she's following the recommendation 2022 Casey review. Electronic monitoring is an alternative to prison detention. Good.
I didn't even know that was actually something that couldn't be done in New Zealand.
Yeah, no. She alongside with the previous Labour government, she's actually made an attempt here to preserve freedom of movement. So
yeah, which actually
good.
Electronic monitoring is a lot cheaper than being locked in a prison with criminals and potentially not in your supportive fields. Whereas you might come to New Zealand, you might be put on electronic monitoring versus, like, if the option was electronic monitoring or the prison, well, we know which one is more cost effective and which one actually helps the person assimilate into society, improve their worth.
Yeah, so just as a caveat, right, this is not going to be the case in all situations regarding deportation. This is just giving the judge a bit of flexibility here. So, yeah, basically it's allowing for the court to assess whether or not it is safe to put this person under electronic monitoring. I do have ethical problems about electronic monitoring because I have met people who have to wear the bracelets. They are very uncomfortable. They are very large, bulky pieces of equipment. And it can, you know, if people had a problem wearing masks during lockdown, you don't want to be wearing one of these. This is worse, much worse.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more ethical than shoving someone into Auckland prison, especially a refugee.
Yeah, especially where they'll likely end up as Mount Eden, which is not actually the best prison for anyone to actually go to.
You'll be throwing lambs into the wolves den. All the wolves would eat those lambs up. They'd just be waiting for it.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, put it this way, it's like a very high remand population as well, which that itself does not help with things, because when you've got remand, there's no rehabilitation services, there's no things. The only thing you're allowed to do is vote.
Yep.
For now.
Yeah,
no. It would not be able to be done. Even with the proposal to make prisoners ban the right to vote, you can only ban it at the point of sentence. You cannot actually ban it on remand because you haven't yet been sentenced.
Yeah, but I will get into that because that's when we get into the ugly side of the bill. But yes, last two good points is emergency visa powers for unusual events like natural disasters. Very good. You don't want to be detaining people who've just come out of a disaster zone. And broader immigration levy payer base. So expands who pays the immigration levy. So that's good. Okay, so that means that we're getting a bit more money in to pay for immigration services. Good. Okay. Now let's go to the ugly part, and this is the part where I agree with Takutai. Takutai, sorry.
Yes.
I don't blame National for getting Takuta and Takutai, their names mixed up. It's very funny when that happens. I just did it there. I merged them together.
Also, put it this way: one's a male's name, one's a female's name as well. But I mean, put it this way: to me, Rangi was a male's name thanks to the character Rangi Hiramaya on Shorten Street. There is a person who has worked for my business who's a female called Rangi.
Yeah, I mean,
like to me, it was like always until I met her. It was really weird.
And also on Play School too.
Yeah.
Oh. It might have been before my time.
I was around there.
Yeah.
Was that when Jim Hickey was a children's television host before he became a Weaverman?
Yes, I was. I'll admit it. I'll put my hand up and say I was around in that era.
All right.
Yeah, you're definitely showing your age here tonight.
I know. I should have. After I said dose,
I
should have just walked right out. I should have just taken the stairs and gotten out of here.
All right, so let me get into the ugly bit of this bill because about half of it is pretty good. The other half is meh, but there's one that sticks out that's not so great, and I'm going to talk about that one now. So deportation for criminal offending, not just convictions. So basically that means that resident visa holders can now be deported if they plead guilty or are found guilty or are convicted of a serious crime. So cancelling residency for security risks who can't be deported. The minister can now place them on a temporary visa, which means that they'll lose their voting rights, the ability to buy homes and sponsorship privileges. Now, Erica did say that in the speech, which is good, but I'm going to explain why this is not such a great thing, and why I support what Takutai said. So, cancellation of resident status will also reduce the rights of individuals, including in certain circumstances, the ability to access welfare support, which could be harmful to that individual. So, again, if you've got someone that's low income and they need food support or they need something, right, for ethical reasons, this is going to severely impact what benefits they can be eligible for, even though they would have paid taxes and all that stuff and paid into the system, that they're not going to get anything out of it. So now the regulatory impact statements does state that this will only apply to a small number of individuals, so 1 to 2 individuals every 5 years. But that's a guesstimate, okay? Weird shit does happen, so you've got to have other provisions for when the weird shit happens. Now, this bill, it's really interesting. It combines 2 proposals from the regulatory impact statement. It combines Proposal A and Proposal B, providing a more flexible response to managing individuals under the Immigration Act. So it combines cancelling residency with electronic monitoring. Now, the regulatory impact statement actually liked the community approach to resolving these problems, but National's done a weird thing here where they've gone, well, we got to punish crime, but we've also got to not be unethical. Like, as in, we've got to make sure that there's community supports and, make sure that the freedom of movement is not limited. It's a weird thing, but yeah, I'm not particularly fond of restricting rights for people. I think that needs working on, but for the most part, right, I can say 50-60% of this bill passes the sniff test.
Well, it's a lot better than many of National bills.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give Erica that credit. Like she's done more work than the average National MP.
As it says, it's a lot about what's it called? It's a lot to do with Erica Stanford, yeah, I know. I saw that popped in. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I know
also, just to let you know, I am playing my goblins. So for those, you can't. That's annoying for that cameras. You can't even see on the smart screen phones. But yeah, I am playing my goblins at the same time. But that just shows Erica Stanford herself is the fact that she's actually making sure she does thorough bills, but she also wants to make sure her legislation doesn't get undone at the next government.
I'm sorry to all the people that had to listen to me ramble
No.
But it's got big parts. It's got big chunky parts attached to it.
I think
Exactly. And it's letting us know the fish hooks in the legislation.
Yeah. So that's my rant for tonight.
My thing is that they're playing it safe. A lot of it was just rambled on off a piece of paper. I don't know if she really knows what she's saying a lot, because you couldn't pry her away from the piece of paper that the speech had been written down for her. No, it didn't really come from the heart. From the way she was reading it to me, it was just rambling on. It wasn't from the heart because I care and love people. It was like, this is methodically what's going to happen. Yeah,
but I think she was reading her facts on her paper to make sure she wasn't making things up on the spot.
Yeah, she was doing what I do.
Yeah.
I've got a piece of paper in front of me on my screen.
But did you feel like a Mother Teresa vibe? Did you feel you love
No, definitely did not feel that from Erica.
Right.
No. But I wasn't expecting that from Erica either.
What I got was more of an academic response, which is fine. I will give that a pass. But yeah, it's
I mean, and I do like what David has put on here. Sam is always attentive, just has degrees. Well, David probably knows that these 2 new papers I got take up a lot of time. 6 hours. I've got it down to 6 hours, so it's better than 6.5.
Oh my
which it was 2 weeks ago. So I'm in my third week of delivering between 320 and 340 papers on a Sunday morning.
Wow.
And I used to deliver about 160.
Wow.
And I mean, the 160, the paper runs, those 2 paper runs, I was doing them, and it was one was down to 75 minutes, one was at 90 minutes. Ironically, the one that was at 75 minutes actually paid me more money than the one that was at 90 minutes, funny enough.
Really?
Yeah. Whereas, the new ones, it's trying to refine it through there and that sort of thing. But at least I only had one redelivery this morning, so that wasn't too bad. And like the person was shocked to find out her paper arrived at 12:30 in the morning.
Wow.
The original one that got soaked in the rain. And I said, "Oh, well, it's been there since 12:30." And she goes, "Is that when you delivered it?" I said, "Oh, I've got 350 papers across 2 paper runs, and it takes about 6 hours." She goes, "Oh my God, is this what's happened with all these new runs? I didn't know that." Yeah, because they've just changed all the runs in Wellington for the Sunday start times and for the post.
Why? Why, Sam?
It was concentrating the runs down. So on Sunday, they've gone from 16 runs down to 9. But a lot of people were doing 2 runs on Sunday, went down to 1, and that was what was meant to happen with me. But what ended up happening was one of the people who they had lined up for one of the runs decided to call it quits completely. And then it was just like, "Hey, Sam, I know it's your first preference. Do you want Miramar as well?" And I'm like, "Yes, it's the paper with no traffic lights."
So you're the favourite, Sam. Just say it, that you're the
Yeah.
favourite people. And if you were to get on dialysis, you would be paid to continue.
I'll still be delivering the paper. I'll still be delivering. Well, actually, I think, I'm not 100% certain. We'll have to check it. But Councillor Mandy Mayhem from Dunedin City Council, I think she is still doing her paper run. Now, she had a paper run when she was on the DPB before she met Lee. And she was still doing the paper run when she was a community board member. I think she's probably still doing it now.
That's so mad cool she is.
Yeah. And it's not because she wants to make it. It's just something she's done for so long.
And also,
so in her case, it's the Otago Daily Times. In her case, the Saturday paper. Because they don't do a Sunday paper for the OBT.
I mean, not probably at midnight at night, like if a guy's into.
Oh yeah, no. That's just where it comes off. It leaves the printer where it goes into a van off the printer at 10 p.m.
Wow.
So that's when it leaves Petone to head to New World Miramar to get the papers there. So for everyone knows that if you want to sit there and steal my papers, go to New World Miramar. That's where they are.
Go down there and try and take a paper run because Sam needs to, because he's the teacher's pet down there.
I just love the fact that we went from talking about regulation to newspaper.
Sam's new paper run, yeah.
I was like, all right. I was like, okay, I'm going to give this one to Sam. I had my 10 minute monologue.
Okay. Well, I think we need to move on to Phil Twyford.
Yeah.
I was praying to Eon that there'd be a distraction from the Jim Hickey business with me. So
Jim Hickey and children's TV shows.